man, I'm so like ecstatic right now because like I cannot believe like I'm interviewing you. First of all,
Uh,
um, seriously, thanks a lot, man. When you hit up my post, I was like, whoa, you gotta be kidding, man. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe. I'm like, is this a fake profile?
uh, no,
And it was a real profile.
yeah,
Um, this is my host Tim Benamdi. He's a musician,
okay,
percussionist, guitarist as well. I'm a
oh,
musician, and as you know, I run this page.
yeah,
Um, for all of you guys that are watching right now, thanks for showing up, Mr. Quay. I'm gonna give you an intro. I'm gonna try to do the Reader's Digest version, even though the intro could be at least a whole encyclopedia. Caleb Quay is an amazing multi-instrumentalist producer. He's played and worked with Elton John, Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney, Hall and Oates, Robert Fripp, um, Harry Nilsson, and was pretty much one of the cats that was like pretty much like cultivating the British invasion. You guys check out the documentary Louder Than Rock. It's an amazing documentary, beautiful documentary, and he also has a book. And we're going to talk about all that. And if you guys have any questions, please ask them as well. Um, man, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I am doing good. I'm still recovering from a heart attack that I had 2 years ago.
Oh wow,
It's it's been quite a miraculous thing that I'm here even talking to you. But I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So I'm an older guy now, so I'm a shadow. Physically, I'm a shadow of my former self. I walk around with a cane, but I'm still playing the guitar, which is a blessing.
Excellently.
man, wow.
Thank
Glad that you're here with us, man. Glory to the Most High, man.
you,
That's
man.
wow.
To that, sir. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, so I can tour around like I used to, but once in a while I enjoy making a guest appearance here and there. And every Sunday you'll see me playing in church. That's it. Yeah.
I heard that you go to church on the way. Is that the church that you're at?
Not anymore. I'm in a church in Pomona. It's called New Life Pomona. But Church on the Way is where I got saved, and I was there for quite a while. Then went back there for 6 years as the worship pastor, and that was just right before COVID. And then just before COVID, in 2020, I moved out to this new church in Pomona, which is where I serve now.
Wow. When at the former church that I went to, I always heard about Church on the Way because of the musicians, and one of the main ones because I'm mostly known for playing bass is Abraham Laborio. Like all the guys
Yeah.
that were pretty much like my musician church mentors and my father as
Yeah.
well. He would always talk about Abraham Laborio. So now,
Yeah.
and then when I found out that you went there, I'm like, oh man, that's gonna
Oh
be
yeah.
monstrous, man.
Oh yeah.
Monstrous band.
Yeah. 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 Abe's a dear friend of mine, and we used to do a lot of work together. And he was instrumental in praying for me. Before I got saved, we used to do a lot of studio work together. You know,
Wow,
and so, yeah, we have some history. Beautiful guy. Yeah.
man. Well, man, he's another one that I'm been meaning. Him and his family is one that I've been meaning to cover. And as I was telling Bektimba, like in a recent conversation we had, I'm like, I literally have to take time to do that too, because it takes me a long time to do my bios, and I've been holding
Yeah.
off for years because there's a
Yeah.
lot. But just to
Yeah.
get into your story,
Yes.
you come from a musical family yourself as well. I mean,
Yes.
Cab Quay, your father, Terry, your sister, and
Yeah.
Finley, your brother. They're pretty much like known musicians as you are. man, like I want to know, like, just like what really got you, like, what was the bubble? I mean, I'm sorry, what was the thing that really got you into just playing music? Like, and also why the guitar?
Well, okay, the first question, I think best way to answer that is to say that it was something I was born into. Now, what I mean by that is that on my father's side of the family, there's 5 generations of musicians prior to me that go back into West Africa. And they were gosh, the tribe that our family came from was converted to Christianity by Methodist missionaries. So this is we're back in the 1800s and stuff. But my ancestors, as I've come to find out, on my father's side, from Ghana is where our family's from. They were before that tribe was converted. They were the musician, warrior, priests of the tribe, and the name was called Asopho. That's what they were, the Asopho. So that's what my family is descended from on my father's side of the family, if that makes sense. And what these guys used to do, it was kind of like the Levites in the Bible.
Yes.
So when the tribe went out to either go hunting or to go into war, with another tribe or whatever, they would send out the Asopho first. And the Asopho would go out there banging their drums and everything. The whole thing was to clear out the evil spirits.
Wow.
That's what I'm descending. Yeah. So we grew up, and my father understood this, and it was handed on to me that this gift of music, it's a spiritual calling, as well as something that, you study and you learn, music theory and stuff like that. So music was prevalent in our house all the time. My dad was always playing music, and he had an extensive jazz background. And so he knew a lot of the famous musicians from his generation. Well, which would be goodness gracious. And these guys came over to our house to eat while they were on tour in England. So these would be people from Duke Ellington's band, Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker was a good friend of my dad's, Django Reinhardt, all these people. Because my dad would work shows with them when they came on tour in England. So growing up as a kid, it was like you would understand this because you're musicians. I tell people a flat 5 chord was my sonic wallpaper. You know, I under you know I understood what those chords sounded like. I understood them from a child because Dad was always playing this kind of music, and to me, I loved it. I thought, yeah, I'm home. This is, where I'm supposed to be. So I grew up listening to all of this music, before rock and roll, the forerunners of all that. And along with the straight ahead jazz people, like my dad was good friends with Max Roach, so
Wow.
all of this
Hearing.
rich. I mean, we had, and it's in the movie, I had, just a great upbringing in terms of exposure to great music, played by the best of that generation. And we had singers come around the house too, Lena Horne, Ella Fitzgerald. So there were, my dad would have these great jam sessions going on at our house, and I was just like a little boy, you know, 5, 6 years old, sat on, Dizzy Gillespie's bouncing me on his knee, you know, while he's blowing his trumpet, and I'm looking up, and I still remember to this day looking up, you know, and seeing his cheeks blow out when he's playing it. You know? And I didn't
That's
even
awesome.
years later that he was actually using wrong technique according to the classical standards, the classical paradigm of playing the trumpet. But he just developed this technique and had a custom made horn where the horn kind of shot upwards, you know, so he could get this huge tone and this massive volume, you know. It was incredible. And I said, wow, this is great, you know. So this is, you know, my musical influence. That is the best way I can answer that question. I was born into it. So as well as listening to all the classical music that was being played on BBC radio at the time, you know, growing up in England. So it was an eclectic spread right from the beginning, you know. We were the strange family in the street in in conservative Finchley in North London, in England. You know, because my dad had these jam sessions going on, and then the neighbours would call the police. You know, to
Wow.
shut down this. Yeah,
Man,
it was crazy. But so that's the bubble I come from. So it's a mixture of being exposed to amazing music of that time period, and along with having some understanding that music there was a spiritual core to it, you know. The best way I can answer that question, I think.
that's awesome. Timba? Oh no, we can't hear you.
I can't
Oh,
hear.
sorry.
There we
What
go.
what was the social fallout of being in that maybe of being in that environment and just kind of the exposure at that point of maybe of having so much music like I'm thinking your peers were you like high above them just in that sense of having maybe so much exposure from a jazz level and maybe your peers at that age weren't or how did you fall in with the others?
Um, that's a great question, and it's kind of difficult to answer because I always had friends, school, you know. Um, During those primary years, I had good friends. But and back in those days, as I remember it, everybody, you know, all my friends, especially the boys wanted to be like their fathers. So kids in the street, you know, their dads may have been policemen or firemen, something like that. So that's what they wanted to be, you know. I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to be a musician. Never ever thought of anything else different, you know. So so we got along. You know, I used to bring them over to the house and you know play some music for them. You know, play some records, and they loved it. But it wasn't as dear to their heart maybe as it was to mine. To me, it was like this is life. You know, some people grow up in houses where it's just like silence. It's like, you know, growing up in a library or something where you're not supposed to make any noise. Nobody's hardly talking to each other. You know, our house was completely different. It was alive. There was music all over it. It was just all music. You know, the first thing my dad would do when we get up in the morning was he'd play some music. He'd put on one of these records, you know, especially something like Louis, him, Louis Jordan. He was,
Oh yeah,
Yes.
oh
rock and roll
man,
legend.
he used to love his songs. I loved his Who Put the Whiskey in the Well? That was one of my dad's favorite. So we'd wake up in the morning, and my mum's making some tea and stuff like this for breakfast, and my dad he puts it who put the whiskey in the well, also, that's how we start the day, you know.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. That is awesome. Man, there's some comments in the section that they'll Shinri Music says the man, the myth, the legend, amazing guitar player. And Max says, "Hey Caleb." And Mary says, "Now I can't hear anyone." Oh man, I can hear everyone now. Maybe this is an older one. Let me see. Let's see if I think. Oh yes, lads from North London. Max says that. Happy Valentine's Day. Merrily Herden says that, and I see Mary. I think she could hear it now because she has the hearts. Um, the only question is for Cherry Shinri Music says, my only question is for as many less as less. Oh, my only sorry. My only question is for as many lessons Caleb taught me is why I can't play even a smidge as well as him. Shock Shakala says, as a kid, did you realize how famous these house guests were? Sorry.
Okay, boy, where do I start? Okay, uh, we start with the last one. Yeah, I knew that the house guests, if you like, I knew how famous they were. I was aware of that. You know, my dad used to tell, and of course to see their pictures on album covers.
Yes.
And back in those days, with the vinyl, albums, you had sleeve notes. I always used to read the sleeve notes. So yeah, no, I knew they were world famous, and of course, my dad would take us to see their concerts when they would perform in England. So Duke Ellington, all these people, we would go see them perform, and so that was amazing. So the dots were well connected there.
Aside from your father, would you be able to say that any of these other jazz musicians had a significant impact on maybe your perspective of jazz or your
Yeah, I remember a conversation I had one time that really, really kind of threw me for a loop. Um, we had some of the Duke Ellington band came over for Sunday dinner, and I heard them. We were sat around the dinner table, we were eating our dinner and stuff, and they're having a conversation, and they're talking about music. And I was about 7 years old at the time, and I suddenly interrupted this conversation, and I said, well, tell me, what kind of music do you guys listen to? And one of them, just without dropping a beat, he turned around to me and he said, listen to the classics, boy. Listen to the classics. And I thought, what? To me at the time, it did not make any sense.
Mhm.
I grew up here, classical music on BBC and in school and everything, and to me it was boring. I hadn't gotten into it. I was into Louis Jordan and bebop and the groove, the beat, and all moving bass lines and syncopation, all of this stuff, and I immediately assumed that that's what they were listening to. So to hear this come from the guys in the Duke Ellington band, listen
Mhm.
to uh, it was years later. It wasn't till I was about 15 years old or something that it started to come together, and I started to read about and hear about the influence of somebody like Stravinsky
Love Stravinsky.
on class on on jazz musicians. You know,
Wow.
how a lot of and what is going on here? And the guy that really helped connect the dots for me, just a few short years later, was Paul Buckmaster.
Okay.
Mm.
Oh,
Okay.
Paul
Yes.
Buckmaster was just a wonderful, not only a dear friend, a great guy to work with, you know, on the Elton project and everything, but he became a mentor to me in terms of classical music like I'd never had before.
Like the string arrangements.
Yeah, and we would you know, I remember one time we would have these great listening sessions, you know, we'd go around to his place, and Paul would put on some, you know, a record of like some Beethoven or whatever, you know, a classical thing, you know, and he'd say, now listen to this movement, you know, and I really connected with Beethoven's Symphony Pastoral, and it's like
Mm.
the third movement in there, and I'm listening to this, and all of a sudden I heard uh, 6/8 groove in there.
Wow.
But it was all there was no percussion. It was all strings, and you know, it was all orchestra. It was all here. But in my head, I'm hearing, oh, it was kind of like this orchestra suddenly had Elvin Jones sat in with them. So
Sick.
yeah,
Mhm.
6/8. I mean, just like Coltrane 6/8. You know, and I
Yeah.
said, oh, what's going on? What am I here? He says, yes. He says, that's right. He says, it's all there. It's just implied. I went, oh my! I mean,
Wow.
that was just like, so that changed my way of hearing music, which to this day is just a treasure. Now,
Hey,
Paul was wonderful. Paul was wonderful.
I have a question. Did
Yeah,
you know Barry D'Souza and did your dad know York D'Souza?
I knew Barry D'Souza. I don't know if my dad at that time. My dad was out of the country, so I don't know if he knew that other person or not. But Barry D'Souza, yeah,
Because you and him, it's like when I was reading your stories, because I know, like, I mean, his dad was a jazz musician as well, man, and it's just like, and I'm like, man, I wonder if they ever met, you know, like, and both of you guys are from the UK, and you know, both brothers, you know, like, I was like, I wonder if
yeah,
they ever met, you know, like,
yeah. Well, yeah, Barry, I knew well. We did sessions and stuff together. Yeah,
man, but yeah, that's interesting what you're saying about just even when it comes to jazz and classical and how they connect and all that.
yeah.
Um, man, and I love Stravinsky. As a matter of fact, I try to like pay tribute to the Rite of Spring when that day
Oh,
comes around because of that piece.
there you go. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, Miles, I know he was into that as well.
yeah,
I think even Eric Dolphy, you know, like,
yeah.
oh,
Yes, that's right.
another. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, like, oh, somebody had mentioned in the comments, Finchley. Wow, Finchley's just the corner from me in Southgate in London.
Yes.
Um, and I don't. I wish I could read Arabic. I only know a few words, but man, someone from what country were they. Oh my gosh, Caleb Henry music, but right on. I'm so sorry for all of those that are commenting in Arabic. I only, oh man, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's the brother from Gaza. Yeah, he says from Gaza, the land of peace. The From Gaza, the land of pride. We greet you this evening. That's so cool. We got somebody from Gaza. And
Yeah.
thank you for writing that in English because I wish I knew it in Arabic. I only know a few words in Arabic, and my Arabic is horrible. How did you feel about walking out on stage and playing at Dodger Stadium? Yeah, I've stripped off. I didn't know that they did gigs there.
Oh, he's talking about most probably the Elton John gig in
Yeah,
1975 Stadium. Yeah,
yeah,
well,
that's the one.
that was something of a historic event. because a few years earlier, let's see, that was 75. So 10 years earlier, 1965, the Beatles had played at Dodger Stadium,
Wow.
and there was a riot there. Yeah. Oh, this is the height of Beatlemania. So there was a riot. So the stadium, they banned concerts back in 1965. So
Man,
1975, we were the first band, with Elton John since the Beatles that they opened it up to do a concert. And we packed the place out there for a couple of days, and it was just like the whole of Los Angeles showed up there. I mean, it was a historic event. Yeah, it was really great.
I can
that's
remember
so cool.
Elton wearing like a rhinestone studded Dodger jersey or something.
Elton did, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. It was a huge event. Yeah, he came out swinging a baseball bat and everything. And by that time, Elton was really the biggest thing on the planet at that time. I mean, he'd really hit it big. And the band was a smoking band, and it was an amazing event.
Mhm.
And I
Man,
still bump people these days say that was my first concert. I'll never ever forget it. I was 12 years old or whatever. But it was really great. We knew this was something special here. This is just something special. And of course, to look up on the scoreboard and see your name on the scoreboard was really a treat.
that's rad.
That
I
was
didn't know that they even did shows until I saw that in the documentary,
Yeah,
and I didn't know that they did shows at Dodger Stadium. That's cool.
that was
Um,
the first since the beat. Yeah. Hmm.
that was what the
somebody had asked, "Is Caleb ready to do a one-off gig with Elton if he calls?"
If he called, I'd do it. Absolutely. Sure.
Man. Oh, Timba, did you have something to say? Sorry about that.
oh no, I was saying so that time period that was around the release of Rock of the Westies.
Right. Exactly. 1975. Yes.
Okay, all
Hmm.
right. Yeah, I think that was around the time, or maybe a little bit before the time, because I was very young, so I wasn't necessarily listening to something right when it came out,
Hmm.
but I became an Elton John fan maybe a 76, maybe
Oh,
maybe 76 or so. And some of the first records I had were the self-titled Empty Sky, and you were
oh,
on both of those.
yeah.
And so yeah, I just I think one of the first, thinking back now, that probably the first picture I've seen of you were like in a session or something. You're playing a white Strat or something, and and I'm not sure who. I think Elton was in there also. He had a mustache and glasses, and
Oh,
yeah.
that was empty
Okay,
session. Yeah, an empty
yeah.
session. That's right. Yeah.
And I actually had no idea that I mean, I didn't consider at the time, but just recently, I looking back, I had no idea that you were so young at the time.
Yeah.
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 Man,
Yeah.
speaking of young, was your first band the Soundcasters or Soundcastles? Was
The
that the
se-
very first band that you were in?
yeah. Wait, man, you have been digging in the archives. That's incredible. So, so I got to tell you a great story. I got to tell you the big. Yes, school when I was 13, 14 years old. And recently, just within the last year, I've gotten in touch, gotten reconnected with the bass player from that band.
Wow.
So this year, and we'll be connected through, Facebook and stuff. So this year, in October, him and his wife are going to come over here to visit me, going to stay at their house here. And he says, he says, I've been to the States a few times. He says, but I want to come over. This is going to be my last trip over there. He says, we're not getting any younger. He says, but I want to come and see you and catch up over over the last 60 years.
Wow. Man, what a trip. What were you
Oh,
guys like? I mean, that's so cool.
oh yeah. And he was the guy, he was back in school. He was a real lifeline to me because it was a time of difficulty in the family. My dad had left us and everything. And Mike, he's the bass player, but he also had a six-string electric guitar, you know.
Wow.
So he let me use his guitar. He lent it to me. So I did a lot of learning on the guitar, and we did some gigs and stuff. You know, we used to play at hospitals and uh, school competitions in the school. It was so funny. And, you know, we would win these house competitions at the school because we were the new stuff that was coming in, which at that time was the Beatles and Bo Diddley, you know, some of the R&B stuff that was coming across the pond. So we'd play these tunes, and the girls would in the school would start screaming. I'm up the front doing my Bo Diddley rhythm and singing this, you know, and the girls would start screaming, and their boyfriends would get upset. And they wanted to fight with me after the school.
Wow.
Here's the grace of God right here before I even knew it. There's a dear friend of mine in the school. His name is Tony Bent. And Tony Bent just happened to be the All England Schools boxing champion. And,
Yes.
and Tony said, don't worry, I'll take care of you. So when at the end of the school day, I'd have to walk over to the bike rack to get my bicycle out to cycle home. This is where these guys would want to gang up on me. But
Wow.
Tony would walk out on there and say, "You touch him, you got to deal with me." So at age 13, I had my own security. Hey, folks.
Bodyguard. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, Tony was a brother. Yeah, amazing, very talented guy. Yeah, who
Wow.
just happened to be the school's boxing champion. Oh,
Man.
they, yeah,
Another thing that I was wondering about is I've read that you actually took over the work that Jimmy Page was doing.
correct.
Tell us
Yeah,
about that. That's amazing.
yeah. Well, you know, it's really, yeah, it's something. I started doing sessions. Gosh, in actually started in 1965 at Dick James Music uh, after I left school, and a friend of mine, a songwriter by the name of Billy Nichols, um, he used to come in to the studio and do his demos. I'd record his demos and play guitar on his demos. So he got signed by Andrew Oldham, who at the time was the Stones man, and started the first um, independent record label in England called Immediate Records. And their office was right next door. So Billy was always in and out between our studios and the immediate offices. So Billy gets to the point where he's going to record an album, which Andrew produced, and they're going to do it at Olympic Studios. So they were going to use all session players, but Billy wanted me to be on there because I was familiar with his material because I'd actually worked on the demos with him. So we go to the studio, go to Olympic Studios, and and this was like a union gig, and at that time I was not actually in the union, so I'm there, and the contractor, the union contractor who had booked these other guys, he was there like they used to do, and so he's watching everything, and we did a take on one tune, and at the end of the session, the contractor came up to me. His name was David Katz, and he said, he said, Caleb, he said, I really like what you're doing. You sound great. I really like what you're doing. He says, I've got all this work lined up for Jimmy Page, and he doesn't want to do it anymore because he's going to go join the Yardbirds. Would you like to do it? Now, here I am, 16 years old. I'm ready. Yes, sir. Tell me when. Absolutely. I'm your man.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so he says, well, the first thing I need you to do, I need you to join a musicians union. I said, hold it right there. I shot out the door. I got myself over to the musicians union. Went back, yeah, yes, sir. And that's how it happened. That's how it happened.
Wow.
And right around that time, so this is 1966. And I just started playing. I played on a big hit record called Wild Thing by the Trogs.
Oh,
Wow. That's
Yes.
so cool.
So, word went out, and I started getting all this work. That's how my studio career started.
Yeah.
I loved it. I couldn't get enough. I loved it.
That's so cool, man. And just the fact that you were pretty much, I mean, whenever people think about the British invasion, they don't really think, and I'm saying this as a person, a black person, they don't really think about black folks, unless Jimi Hendrix comes up, because
Yeah.
in some ways, he was kind of like, I mean, he was a musician over here, obviously, before he went over there, but he got big over there and then came over here, and a lot of people
Yeah.
thought of that. But they don't think about you or like Bobby Tinch or
Yeah.
the brother and sister that was in White Rabbit. I think it was Bob Marley who went on to join Bob Marley Jr. Junior Gong. I think that's what he goes by. But they don't think of people like you. But you actually were instrumental in not only a musician's way, but also as I saw in the film, publishing too, and just making sure, like you pretty much had a hand in selecting a lot of the bands that were really a part of that, right? Like, I mean, expound on that.
Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing time back then, this to students and stuff, but the years, I would say, between 1965, the 5 years between 1965 and 1970 were a time of an absolute explosion in creativity that I don't think can ever really be duplicated.
Wow.
On a lot of levels. It's not just the bands. It's the whole.
technology.
Yeah, it's technology. It's the whole process of making music. It just blew up. So, for instance, when I first started, when I left school and started at Dick James, what we would call state of the art recording was 4 tracks. 4 tracks, which now to us in digital age, and it's just got to sound like something from another planet. Where you can, with Logic and Pro Tools, I mean, you can have 124 tracks, whatever, 4 tracks was it, and so between 65, it went from 4 track, very quickly went to 8 track, 16 track, 24 track, 48 track.
Wow.
This is just, there's no computers in sight now. This is just analog. These were just, I used to go to, it was Olympic Studios, got the first 24 track in England. I think also got the first 16 in England. And I knew, Keith Grant, the owner of the studios. And so he had a demonstration session. It was an Ampex 16, and he called in all the producers, engineers. I was invited down. You got to come and hear this. You know, this whole thing is changing in a 16 track. And I'll never forget, I sat in the control room, and there's George Martin, there's all kinds of people, Eddie Kramer, engineer, all these people. We're all sat there, and he's running this demonstration. He says, now, look what you can do with the drums. You can isolate stuff. You put the kick in the center. You can, put the snare off center to the left. Then you can, put the toms where you want them, pan them across. And he plays this tape, and we're all sitting there going, we thought we'd, gone to the moon. That's crazy. It was revolutionary, never been done before. So I was just, fortunate to have been in on the ground floor on all of this outbreak of these technological advancements. I was always interested. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to recording sessions that he would do. And I was always intrigued, and I don't know where I got it from, but I think it was just a gift from God. I was always intrigued with the entire process of making, not just the playing of it, but from composition to arrangement to production concepts to performance in the studio. It always intrigued me, and I was always thankful that when I got the job at Dick James and they let me run the studio, that I was able to learn my craft in that studio, and learn all this stuff.
Man, and that's so cool that you were learning like as the progression of a lot of that stuff was going on, man. That must have been a trip.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was in and out of EMI studios talking to the engineers. How'd you do this? How'd you get that?
Wow.
It was great. It was and just watching it go down, and you just absorb these things, There was a great artist, Picasso, made a great statement. He says an artist is the sum total of his influences.
Man, that's a profound statement.
It really is. It really is, because back in those days, there were a lot of guys that were specialists in just one thing. And I understood early on that just to be a specialist in one thing is not going to get you very far.
Yeah, that's true.
People talk about Hendrix. Hendrix, yeah, absolutely amazing, but they forget or choose to ignore the fact that he also knew piano as well.
Wow.
Yes, he knew his chords. Yeah, he knew his stuff.
He's the reason that I started playing, believe it or not, man. Yeah, as a little kid, seeing that, and of course my father, he was a musician as well.
Yeah.
Seeing him on TV and this is probably 15, 16 years after he passed. And as a kid in the 80s, I'm like 12 years old, and it blew my mind. I'm like, this dude, like,
oh yeah,
man,
he knew every lick in the book.
Did you ever meet him?
Once met him.
Wow.
And I did not know what to say.
Man. I
did not know what to say because at that time he was so far ahead of everybody else. It was like, what do I say to this guy? But I was good friends with Mitch Mitchell.
Wow.
Mitch Mitchell and I used to do a lot of studio work. Yeah. And in fact, I was with Mitch on the day he auditioned for Hendrix.
Wow.
Yeah. So man. Mitch was great. He would always encourage me. We would be doing a gig somewhere and Mitch would show up you know, and Mitch was saying, yeah, you know, man, you can do what Hendrix is doing. I'm going, please, what are you talking about? No, man, do it, you do it, you know. He was great.
Man. Hey, Mr. Quay, how are we doing on time? I don't want to make you late for, you know.
I'm good. No, we're good. Yeah, it's 10:46 my time, so
Okay. Um, I have to ask this, speaking of recordings, was Grooving with Mr. Blow your first recording, or did you do any recordings before that?
I did recordings before that. Yeah.
Wow. And how was it when you did your first like self-titled like solo recording? When you recorded, this is one of my favorite titles.
Oh, baby, great.
Baby, your phrases, yeah.
I cannot believe the homework that you guys have done. Oh, God. This is really great. um, oh, well, that was exciting because I was writing a bunch of songs, and you know, I'm working at Dick James' studio, and I'm learning my craft, and so Dick decided to sign me as an artist as well, and let me, you know, record my own stuff. So yeah, so that was the first thing I did. Baby, your phrasing is bad. And what the song was about was, I don't know, some kind of talking to some girl, and she's talking a load of stuff, and I just couldn't understand what she's talking about.
Perfect Valentine's Day song. That's hilarious, man.
And you hear
Man.
a lot of comments about that now, because apparently it's become like a I guess a cult recording of psychedelic music. It's become really revere it as one of the, I guess, authentic psychedelic recordings, because we had this tape phasing going on, which was a trick we'd learned from the Beatles at EMI. So it was recorded in '67. So this is around the Revolver, Sergeant Pepper period, where the Beatles have started to experiment with all kinds of strange effects and stuff in the recording, and phasing was one of it, which really caught my ear. So we just phased the whole track. Is what we did. You know, made a copy of a two-track and just put it together, and you kind of play them both at the same time, and they're kind of slightly out of time, and you get this swoop effect, you know, and people love it. And today they tell me if you can get a copy of that, it's worth some serious cash. I'm going, yeah, I can't believe this.
It
So,
sounds awesome. I dig it.
great, great. I was just a teenager, you know, when we did it, you know, just going for it. And then the guitar solo in there is me trying to do Hendrix. Oh,
Wow. It sounds amazing, man. I dig it. I like a lot of that era, especially
yeah,
the more psyched out stuff like that. It's
yeah,
kind of heavy too, you know.
yeah.
Um,
It was
oh,
no over, no overdubs. It was just a three-piece, guitar, bass, and drums. No overdubs. That was it. Just, you know, hit it. And, yeah.
man, that sounds awesome. Mary was asking if you would ever get the opportunity to jam with Davey and the band these days. Who is she referring to? I
Maybe
think I.
Most probably sounds like Davy Johnstone, who plays
Oh,
for Elton these days. Has done for a long time. That's
wow.
the only thing I can think of.
And she also says Paul Buckmaster was amazing. Really brought Elton's music to life.
Oh yeah,
Um, and somebody was King Knight of Good says Caleb solo on Sales is
so.
incredible.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I
Interesting.
always remember that. I always remember that doing that solo. That was a lot of fun. Again, it was
Man,
studio, not overdubbed. It was live.
wow.
Yeah.
And also he mentions I think that was the first band you had with Elton, right? Bread and Beer, the Bread and Beer band, right?
Well, that was the title for a studio project we were doing. It was my band Hookfoot at the time,
Hookfoot.
and we
Yeah, great band.
did a lot of work with Elton, and but at that period of time we had no money, and so someone, gave budget to and get a studio to record something, and so we had money. They paid a session to it.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah,
Um, it's
I want to share something with you. Is that when you were talking about the British invasion stuff and everything, you might be interested to know. Let's see, it was last year, and it's going to happen this year. But I was contacted last year by the Victoria and Albert Museum in England. So the Victoria and Albert Museum would be the equivalent, I guess, like the Smithsonian in England. It's a very famous museum. Been there for over 100. This year they're doing a special presentation, I guess, if you like, of black music in the UK in the 20th century. They contacted me, and I never even thought about it at the time, but they said that I was the first black electric guitar player to do session
wow.
in the studios in the UK.
Oh man,
I went, what? So they're doing a feature on me, yeah, and
that's
also
so cool.
as well because he was a celebrity over there in his time, and so that was, I mean, I am just truly honored at that, you know. So this is April, April the 18th. They're doing this. They have 4 locations in London. And we sent them some pictures and stuff, you know. So they've done all their homework, like you guys have dived into the archives and come up with this. And I never even crossed my mind, never even thought about it, never even crossed my mind. But sure enough, they were right. Yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah, I was, like, man, I'm glad that that's being known. Like, one of the things that I do with this page is, and a lot of people are, and I still shine things on the earlier in proto rock and roll stuff that a lot of us have been involved in and innovated, of course. But one thing that I actually really focus on is the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, because I feel a lot of people don't think that we were involved in anything. And most of the artists that I cover are from that time, not just because I've done stuff like in the 90s or whatever,
yeah,
but like I feel like there are so many people like yourself and even other amazing cats that I've interviewed that don't get the shine that they deserve, and I think for me, just as a person, cultivated by my own parents to kind of like, you know, my dad always made it a point to point out who people that looked like us were in rock and roll, whether it be Arthur Lee, whether it be like just, Ernie Isley.
yeah,
And, he knew like where I was musically and stuff as far as like just my interest, especially, but he always cultivated that. So
yeah.
I always kind of, and yes, tomorrow will be his birthday. May he rest in peace. May the
Oh,
Lord rest him.
yeah.
And I always I've been doing this, I think that was definitely an influence on me. So I'm glad to hear that, this is happening with you, man. You deserve it and all the
Thank
work that you put in.
Appreciate that. Appreciate. Yeah, it was a big surprise to me, but I just thank God. It was great. People often
Most
ask.
definitely.
They've said, well, what was, they kind of talk about the racial thing. Did you ever experience, racist stuff when you were in the studios? My answer is never, never. Because to me, I grew up to think music is colorblind. It's, you can go to history. You know, when I first heard Booker T and the MGs, I had no idea there were two white guys in there.
Yeah,
Then
man.
when
Dennis
I
Duff.
Aretha Franklin's "Natural Woman" record that she did with Respect, and it was recorded in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. You know, all the musicians were white. She was the only person of color in there, but you can't tell when you listen to the music. It just sounds like great music. It was
Man.
never it was never an issue. You
And
know.
Steve Cropper
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
session.
heroes. Steve Cropper. Oh yes. Can't tell you enough good about him. You know. And so yeah. So that whole thing falls flat on its face to me. I mean, music is colorblind. So you have Miles Davis being, as you said, being influenced by Stravinsky.
Mm.
What's that all about? So I gotta tell you this story. This is something else as well, seeing as we're on this subject here. It was a guy, a youngster from Ghana, contacted me, it's about 3 or 4 years ago now, and he was getting his PhD in the history of jazz. Guys, and he contacted me and he says, I'm doing my PhD. And he says to me, he says, I've come to find out that your grandfather was one of the inventors of jazz. I said, what are you talking about? You know, apparently my grandfather, after whom I'm named, Caleb Quaye, when he was living in Ghana, he used to work. He was the organist in church, which was the Methodist Cathedral in Accra, Ghana. But his day job was working in a music store where they sold pianos, and he would demonstrate pianos. Now, for those of you who don't know, in Ghana, Accra is a port city, so it's by the ocean. Okay, so a lot of ships would come in, and ships from America, and a lot of the sailors were also musicians, American musicians. So there was this interplay going on between American musicians and African musicians.
Mm.
And my grandfather was in that mix. And these American musicians told my father he could make a lot of money over in Europe and in the US with. So my grandfather stole away on board a ship to Europe,
Oh.
and he formed a band over there. And it was and he went to the States as well. And so he had a couple of Americans in his band. The name of the band was called the Five Musical Dragons. And this
Mm.
band became a sensation over there, over in England. This is now, we're talking about early 1900s, you know,
Mm.
late 1900s, early 1900s. My grandfather's band used to do gigs at Buckingham Palace for King Edward. They were huge. Unfortunately, my grandfather died in a train crash when he was 21 years old.
Oh man.
Yeah. But this guy, and I had the privilege of sitting in when this guy um, had to do his, I forget what they call it, like uh, like a hearing or something and to present his thesis for his PhD. So he invited me to listen in online. You know, he introduced me online. He got his PhD, and he's currently he holds a research position at the university at Oxford University in England. He moved over there, and he's teaching all this stuff. So
Huh.
yeah,
Far out, man.
it is. It's like, what? Yeah, my grandfather apparently. Oh, what was his name? Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass. He started to finance a group that would go on like cruise ships back in the day of African American musicians that were starting to play a primitive form of jazz, if you like. We had
Mm.
this crossover between European classical music and then imported, African rhythms. This was going on back in Frederick Douglass's day. Frederick Douglass's son was a brilliant violinist,
Wow.
and my grandfather worked with him on some of these cruises. Yeah,
Never knew.
Far out.
yeah, it's been hidden. So so everybody, history as we're informed by history, they say, well, okay, jazz came out of New Orleans. Well, yes, but only partially, because the New Orleans sailors would go over to Africa and,
Mhm.
uh, establish musical connections, creative connections with the African musicians. And that's where my grandfather was, right in that mix.
Have you
Wow.
have you had any familiarity with the African guitar styles or anything?
A little, I've
Like
observed,
wine,
I'm sorry.
but like the African styles like palm wine guitar or the other types in the East Coast.
Yeah, not so much the East Coast, but more on. Let me think here. Like Mali,
Okay.
Mm.
style. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to this day, I don't play with a pick anymore.
Oh, wow.
It's been a long time. I dropped the pick years ago. You know, and and a lot of that is because of that kind of influence.
Okay.
I've watched them play with just the thumb and this. And I really enjoyed the percussive dynamics they get out of it. And there's something about a purity of tone when it's just skin on string.
Okay.
I think of the term heartstrings. There's nothing in between. There's nothing in between. Whereas with a pick, you always get that click as it hits the string. But if you're playing with your fingers, you have a choice. I can use my fingernail if I want to get that little edge, but then I can just use the flesh of the fingers to get a wider, you know,
The warmer sound, yes.
warmer sound. Yes, it can bounce back too. It's all. So I get people coming up to me saying, "How do you get that sound? What pedal are you using?" I'm going, "Hold on, it ain't the pedals, bro. It's right here."
Right in the tips.
It,
That's
it,
awesome.
Hands in the hands.
it really is. Yeah.
Man, I have a few comments. It says, thanks, gentlemen, for putting this together. How celebrities have been able to bring families, music, and church together is a blessing. What is Caleb's proudest musical moment? And another Mac asked, can you ask Caleb about PP Arnold? Who, man, I like PP Arnold too. What a great singer she is.
Yeah.
So those are
Oh, boy. God. Well, P. Arnold, yeah, she's a dear friend to this day. We
wow.
haven't seen each other in years, but I worked with her on her first solo album she did in England, which was for that independent label I was telling you about called Immediate Records. So they called me in there to help her with some arrangements and played some piano on there for her. So that was back in '66. That's when I first met her. She's been a great friend over the years. Proudest moment. Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Things like Dodger Stadium, some of those Elton gigs. I mean, that was truly a proud moment. No question about that. That was a highlight. But then there's also been some other moments when that's in like the secular arena, if you like. But I've been a music minister for 40 years now. So there's been lots of moments when, I've played my guitar and led worship and just seeing people come to Jesus during those times, or seeing people be delivered from something, or see people get set free from all kinds of baggage that they've been carrying. And that's something I really believe in and holding very dear to my heart, especially these days. And so it's very difficult to pick out just one uh, one incident. That's a tough one. But I'm just so thankful that I'm still able to play today. Like as I say, after I had my heart attack, it took me 7 months before I could pick up the guitar again.
Wow.
So to just be able to play and bless people in the encouragement of their faith, that is something every week that brings me to tears of gratitude, where I just say, thank you, God. I'm still able to do what you called me to do. 19.
That's a
There's
beautiful thing.
no other privilege to me. There's no other privilege. One of the things that brings joy to my heart is every Sunday when I go and play in church, and afterwards, somebody will come up to me and they say, Caleb, every time you play the guitar, heaven comes down. That
Mm.
to, that to me lets me know I'm doing what I was born to do.
Wow. That is beautiful, man. It's like I can't even say anything. That's really beautiful. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
it's funny. I mean, we live in this world that is so driven by this aspect, this ideal of being famous, and then when you're famous, that means you've got it all, and unfortunately, that is true. You know, and caught up in that is there's this notion where it's like, well, I've got this gift, therefore it's me that's doing this. Look what I've done, and Frank Sinatra, I'll do it my way. And unless we acknowledge the gifts that we give from God, we're going to be there in left field. We'll be going down all kinds of rabbits hole. And that's where, the drugs and everything comes in, because we're chasing some kind of glory. But the word of God says there's only one glory, and that's God, through his son, Jesus Christ. And I'm sorry if this sounds like preaching, but it's the truth. It's the truth. And when I play my guitar, it's like it's a means of expressing truth. It ain't about how famous can I get. You know, been there, done that. It don't work. you know. So that's. we've been given this gift by God, you know, and so we want to make sure we're using it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Bless people. We're supposed to be agents of blessing. That's
Yep.
that's that's how I see it. You know, God's given me a gift. We're supposed to be agents of blessing. My mother used to tell me. She said, you know, for somebody so talented, you shouldn't be keeping it all to yourself.
Real talk, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the fact that you had your mom in the movie too. That
Was she
man.
great? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. She was amazing, you know, and she, of course, it was filmed a bunch of years ago now, but she lived to be 101.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
we took care of her here at home, and she passed away in 2019. You know,
Memory eternal to your mom, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, she was great. Yep, yep, yep. She knew Jesus, you know, and she would always tell me, even before, you know, before I became a Christian, and she would always, when I started making it, you know, successful in the stuff, she'd say, well, you know, what is a profit man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Okay,
Wow.
walk right on, you know, quoting me scripture. I had no clue what she was talking about. She was right. Yeah,
Man.
she was great.
Reminds me of my mom and my grandma. The prayer definitely, Lord have mercy. Yeah, praying moms and grandmas. I tell you, like that's awesome, though, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was speaking that into your life, man. You know,
absolutely.
like that's awesome,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
man. Um, let me know how we're doing on time because I can't see my clock from where we are.
Okay, we got another 10 minutes. Does that work?
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Long as we're not, because I know you have some stuff that you have to do,
Yeah.
and you know, um, so not to get off the subject, it's so hard to like just like this is so great. We're just taking everything in, man, and we're just like this is rad, you know. Like, um, here's a question I wanted to ask, and here I'm trying to stay away from asking two questions at the same time. But
Uh-oh.
arrogancy with Roger Hodge. I could never say his name. Hodgson from Supertramp. Was that his first recording
You know, I think
that you
so.
were on?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah. I think so, yeah. Yeah, he was looking to get a publishing deal and everything, you know, and I believe that was the first one.
that's a trip, man. Like I remember like reading about that, and I'm like, oh wow, he was in that band before
Yeah,
Supertramp, and Caleb played guitar on that. You know, like
yeah.
wow. Um, how did you? What was that? How did that come about? Like, is he just one of those other guys that came to where you were working and was looking for like a deal or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, back in those days, Dick James' music, which I talk about in the movie as well. During that time period, I mean, obviously because of the Beatles, uh, they were the Beatles publishing company, so they were the hottest publishing company on the planet. You know, and my job was to listen to tapes and things and demos, and people were banging on that door to.
Man,
I mean, it was crazy. Yeah,
I like your
yeah.
story about Cat Stevens, man. That's so cool, man.
Be begging. They would be begging, please, just this one song, please. Can I just record this one song? You know, yeah, it was.
Man. Um, as far as another, how did Hookfoot come about? Like, were they like your band before like Elton? Like you guys backed up Elton, or like did that happen after? I assume that you guys were a band before that. Like, am I right? Or
Um, actually, let me see. The first time, what it came out of was a session that we did with Elton. It was a single called Lady Samantha. And so this is before the Empty Sky album. I'd done a few singles, James, and I had Roger and bass player then Glover through doing some sessions for a band called The Loot
Hmm.
that signed Page One, which was the same label as the Trogs. And so I met them for doing sessions there. So we put, and I'd always enjoyed playing with Roger and Dave. So when it came to doing this record, Samantha, produced by Grant, who had joined the Dick James Company, uh, Steve asked me, who would you suggest play on this? So I said, let's get Roger. So we did. It went well, and it was actually Pope called me up one day and he says, "Man, we should form a band. We sound great. We should form a band." And it was, I guess, a timing thing because at that time I was really getting itched to do my own music, you know. And I wanted to start incorporating some of my influences, which would be blues and jazz. I wasn't content with just a straight pop kind of a, you know. Elton, he wanted to be a pop star. That's what he always wanted to be. And but my influences were a little different, and so Roger was like begging me over the phone. Let's try it because a band that he'd worked with had just disbanded, and we really enjoyed playing together. So that's how it was Roger. Yeah,
That's
he
awesome.
used this great phrase. He said, "I'll get 10 endorsements coming up there." Now, endorsements is like a speeding ticket, driving speeding ticket. Roger lived miles away out in the countryside in a town called Andover, and I was in the city in London. And Roger, in his country accent, he says, "Yeah, mate, just let me know when." He says, "I'll get 10 endorsements coming up there." Okay, you know. So that's how. And,
Man.
and you know
How,
what? I got to tell you this about my dear friend Roger. He passed away in 2013
wow.
at cancer. I got to speak to him and pray for him on the phone when he was on his deathbed in the hospital.
Wow.
Yep. Took him through some Bible. Do you believe this? Yes, yes, yes. And he's telling me on the phone, "I love you, man." And he said, "I'll get 10 endorsements to come up there to see you again." He remembered that after all these years. You see, we have this gift from God. We are supposed to be a blessing to people. And I'm so thankful I was able to be a blessing to my dear friend. We played together for 10 years. We were tied to the hip musically for 10 years. And I'm so thrilled I was able to bless him on his deathbed. So it's not so much what we do, it's what we leave behind. And what's the quality of what we leave behind that's important.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful to be able to speak to you guys who've done your homework on my life that's just blown me away. It's incredible.
It's an honor, man. We really appreciate it. Like seriously, thank you for even taking time. Like literally, like I can't believe that we're actually doing this interview. But it's a blessing, man. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Man.
Well, unless there's another question, I should be getting going now.
Yes.
All right.
Two
Yes.
questions, and you've
Oh,
been giving us a lot of rad wisdom and stuff. Your socials and all your social media and where we can get the movie and contact you. Um, also, word of advice, even though you've been given a lot of great wisdom type stuff, I still want some gems from you, even more.
Okay, social media. What's Facebook? Caleb Quaye on Facebook, and obviously Instagram. That's it. I think. Um, yeah, that at least that's all I use these days. Um, and then what was it? Oh, where can you see the movie? The movie, oh yes, is available now worldwide on Amazon Prime Video. Amazon Video. And the book is available on Amazon as well. Same title, Louder Than Rock.
Okay.
So, yeah, spread the word. Absolutely. Go see the video. There's a little bit of something there for everybody. See,
It's a rad video. It's a rad movie. Great documentary. I had so many other questions, but I know you got to roll. But one thing, can you give us some advice? Anything, man, like just general advice.
well, the best advice most probably I could think of at this point, when I look at this state of our culture, there is so much confusion, division, all kinds of strife and hatred being stirred up all over the place.
Mhm.
And the best thing I got for you is from Jesus himself, who says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Okay.
If you abide in my word, you'll know the truth. The truth will set you free." And that is really, people come to our house and they comment about how they feel an incredible peace in our house, and it's just a regular house, 3-bedroom house. I mean, it's not a mansion. It's not particularly fancy. It's comfortable, but they come in and they feel a peace in their spirit about it, you know, and the reason for that is because we live according to the word of God, So Jesus says, "My peace I give to you, my peace I live with you, not as the world gives, give unto you." The Bible talks about Jesus being the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Peace. So here's a way that you can know if Jesus is in the mix or not. If Jesus is in the mix, you're going to have peace. If Jesus is not in the mix, in the equation of your life, you're not really going to have peace. You're going to try and find it in all kinds of other things. But his word is where we get peace from. Because whatever he promises in his word, he always backs it. And so that's the greatest advice I can give. Years ago, John Lennon used to sing this, "Give peace a chance," right? For me these days, I would recommend change the words, give Jesus a chance. Don't just write him off as another religious teacher. Come to see him as who he really is, the way, the truth, and the life. And that's all about what's going on inside here. It don't matter what church you attend, it's about your heart in light of the word of God. You know, that's really all I got. But
Man,
it works.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks a whole lot. We really appreciate you, Mr. Quay. It was an
Oh,
honor interviewing
Thank you
you,
so
man.
much.
Thanks for even like, man, thanks for hitting me up. Man. And thank you, Big Timba. Me and Big Timba have
yeah.
been friends for about 20 years at this point.
All right.
We're actually from a collective, the Afropunk Collective in Los Angeles. So, that's what we're a part of as well. And
Okay.
and he's actually contributed to my music program. Thank you, Timba. I have to put him on
Hey,
blast. And it's just a great person too. So I was glad that he was down to interview. with we're be like my comrade, like in interviewing you.
Great.
Like,
Wonderful. I'm thrilled to be able to have done this. It's really an honor. Thank you so much.
man,
Thank you.
peace and blessings to you,
You
and
too.
and
Love
you
on that.
guys check out Mr. Quaye, man, and peace and blessings to all you guys. Best me Memphis Cadusa Hadom Lock. I mean, Black History of Rock and Roll, Black History of Rock and Roll, Black History of Rock and Roll. Peace. Thank you guys.
All right. Great. Thanks.